And meanwhile, I'm reading your chat comments that poetry promotes critical thinking. Of course, it has a strong component of critical thinking. Without critical thinking, we cannot write poetry. And emotions are important. Good. Emotions to familiar objects. Yes, a pen. A pen can have lots of emotions. So, ready? I'm going to share my poem with you. Gabby. My name is Gabriela, but my friends call me Gabby, so you can call me Gabby. Nice and gentle, two adjectives that describe myself. Playing, singing, writing, three activities that I enjoy. Makes good people enjoy. Poetry. Okay, that's a poem. Really, is that a poem? Yes, remember the definition that we use at the very beginning? Yes, that a poem is a poem, but being called a poem? Well, here you have a poem. Of course, this is the first draft, but in this one, we are using parts of speech. We are getting to know students because they are describing themselves, and we know about them, that this is an essential part of a communicative class, of a language classroom. We know about students, we know about their interactions, and they practice different selected topic. So this is a way in which we can work with poetry. Good, I have one poem in the chat, Doris. Dedicated, organized, ready, inspirational, and special. Yes, why not? That could be a poem, or a poem for your loved one. Yes, we can write. Rinalyn, good. Brenda, yes, you can have your poem like Brenda, intelligent and dedicated, loving, writing, eating. I met a good friend, listens carefully, always, for example. That is another way of getting that. In fact, you are, in this very moment, you are having lots of things in your brain working at the same time, and you are adapting that to your own classroom context. This is part of the power of poetry, that it is not only something vague over there, but you can use it in your context. And this is about you, but we have other examples. 5W's poem. For example, who or what is the poem about? What action is happening? When does the action take place? Where does the action take place? Why does the action take place? Yes, this is a very simple poem, but that helps students to situate and to get some concepts clearer. For example, WH questions. Here you have my example. Gabby. Talking about poetry with her friends in this very moment on a nice summer day. Well, almost here we have summer in a nice blue world to share its beauty. Yes, this is a poem. And for example, Doris is having her poem in the chat. Doris, I really enjoy Zumba dance and singing. Why not? This is part of who you are and what you do. If you check, this poem is very, very simple, but if we work, we can have a longer poem and with more, as you said, literary figures, contrasting some metaphors. Here we have an example. Brenda, compassionate, good listener, writing, walking in nature, listening to my friends, words, my favorite word, words. Yes, can you check? You are producing poems, you are writing poems. And maybe you are not poets in the academic definition of the term, but you are creating and your brain is working a lot. That's very, very important. We can have different examples. My week, on Monday I saw, on Tuesday I heard, etc. And we have this example. On Monday, I saw your beautiful face. On Tuesday, I heard your liquid voice. On Wednesday, I touched your pallid hand. On Thursday, I tasted your sweet lips. On Friday, I smelled your love potion. Yeah? So this is very, very simple and is not something very complex. But students are using here metaphors. They are using connotation, denotation of the language. They are using different figures and they are using them, controlling them in a personal way. We have a metaphor. Rain, rain is fresh, rain is a touch of God on your head. With adjectives, nouns, and places. You can say, but there's no link. There's no link. That's the point. Poetry does not need very specific links. It can be very free according to your own creativity. And if we let our students to be creative in the classroom, they are creating and they are communicating. Yes, you can teach collocation, good. And also you can help students to feel free because they do not have to follow that subject-verb complement format, but they have different options. I have another poem I like. This is only I like, but I don't like. I like sunny days, I like warm nights, I like rainy mornings, but I don't like storms in your eyes. Yes? So if you check, this is not very complex, but it has a poetical component, music, rhythm, and a very personal point. We can use classical poetry because it is authentic material. It has a real contact with culture, opening horizons, new panoramas, and develop critical thinking. If you check, they are more or less the same advantages that we have with creating poetry. Disadvantages, not suitable for all kinds of students. That is a disadvantage. And difficult access and grammar in some cases. Classical poetry sometimes is very, very complex. Here we have an example, the tiger. And you can say, oh my God, even the language is very different and foreign to us, and it is English. Yes, but also it has lots of musicality. And if you analyze that, well, you have lots of information. And this one is another poem that you can analyze and you can check. Some people like poetry, but it says that is not everybody. That poetry is for some people, for others, no. And that's valid and that's respectable and important. So you can use lots of exercises, reading aloud, filling the blanks, rhyme, multiple choice, you have music, or just your own music, your body music. You are using about tongue twisters. Good, that's another part of poetry. And if you check, the material is very easy and accessible to find. In context, the classroom context, it reviews previous knowledge, attitudes, values, uses appropriate resources, and promotes reflection and active use of learning strategies. So we have some conclusions that working poetry is a great exercise for English language learners. Why? Because they can experiment with the language and they have that opportunity to share ideas with freedom. Also, it can be used with different purposes. We were discussing that, pronunciation, writing, changing the classroom pace, etc. It also has a strong affective component that is very important for effective social learning strategies and the sense of achievement. That is very important. Students think and believe they have something. Here you have some references and you have some questions. Well, yes, Doris, romantic poetry. Yes, William Blake.
Thank you so much.
Experience. This is very important. Well, thank you so much.
Well, sorry, you were talking and I just cut you. I'm sorry for that. Thank you so much, Miss Gabriela, for your wonderful presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And you have rightfully stated that poetry enhances creativity. You know, in lower classes, students can easily write a haiku, which is a very, simplest form of poem, and it makes them feel accomplished because they have created something. So they feel happy that they have done something. Otherwise, we all feel a little, nervous or confused, and we are sometimes appalled by poetry as well, that we won't be able to understand it, or, we won't be able to grasp the meaning of the poetry. So that was really wonderful, and I really enjoyed it. And I've asked the audience to post their questions in the chat box. And I would request Ms. Fakhra to, ask the questions from you, which have been posted by the audience. So, Ms. Fakhra, can you hear me?
Hi, Dr. Afshin. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm there. I'm just waiting for any questions. And even if there are any, we can kind of add them at the end of both the presentations. So
Okay,
I'll
so
be
Ms.
noting down
Fakhra
if there
is the, yes, Ms. Fakhra is the academic manager, and she's going to, ask the questions from Ms. Gabriela. Over to you, Ms. Fakhra. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much. It was very, very informative and very, I would say, interactive as well. And something that everybody is really appreciating as well. So one of the questions here is, what skills should we teach students before students write a poem?
Well, the first one is the affective skill of remembering emotions and feelings. I think that's the first thing that we should teach students, that our classrooms are safe environments where they can share feelings, emotion, and personal information in a safe way. You know that right now, social emotional healthy environments are very important for students. So I think that's the first thing. If we're talking about grammar, vocabulary, well, it could be very basic, just what's a poem, a small definition maybe. But in general, I think the most important part is the affective and the social learning strategies. Well, that's what I think. Maybe you have other ideas in terms of grammar, vocabulary, but well, I think poetry could be for all levels and all kinds of students.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a very helpful answer. And connected to this earlier question is this question that is asking, how can we teach emotions then?
Well, that's very difficult because emotions, we can teach how to express them, but how to feel them, it's really difficult because everybody is different and everybody has a bunch of emotions working inside and living inside. One thing that we can uh, that we can that can help students to express emotions is to create a good rapport with them and to create safe classroom environments. I mean, avoiding those kind of comments that are not very constructive about criticism, avoiding respect students the first place, respect students as human beings and their dignity as human beings. And with that, we create safer classroom environments. And if they feel safe, they they can share. And also modeling. If I am not able of respecting my students, they cannot respect each other. That's essential. Mm-hmm. Yes, one thing Brenda is saying, first we ask students how they can best represent themselves. That could be an option. But also, if we are talking about emotions, remember that it's a two-way path. So it means that teachers also have emotions and it is valid to express them. So are we ready for that?
Very nicely explained, and some lovely connections you've made to what you have said earlier as well, that it is about universality of emotions and how we are connected as human beings, and poetry connects us with us identity as well as the bigger globe and the world around us. So thank you so much for these responses, and a big thank you to the audience as well for asking some very interesting questions. I suppose that's all from us on questions bit, and maybe we can move to the next presentation. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriela, and thank you, Ms. Fakhra, for the question answer session. And yes, Ms. Gabriela, you rightfully stated that poetry, for the very first thing is to be effective. And because poetry can be used as a tool to promote peace and to teach children empathy, that is very important. You have rightfully stated that. And thanks a lot, Ms. Gabriela. Thank you so much. And if there are more questions about Ms. Gabriela's presentation, you can post them in the chat box, and later on they can be answered by Ms. Gabriela. Thanks a lot. Okay, now we'll move towards our second presenter, Professor Hector. Let me introduce him. Okay, so hi, Mr. Hector, Professor Hector. So, Professor Hector is a professor and researcher at the National Polytechnical Institute in the Foreign Language Center and the High School of Engineering and Architecture. He holds a BA in English language teaching and an MA in teaching. He is the speaking examiner for Cambridge English Assessment, and he is also a member of many associations, including TESOL and ANUPI, COPEI Mexico, and there are lesser difficult words in your biodata, thankfully. So I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your names or some of the institutes wrong, because of course it's a different language for me. But if you want to introduce yourself, or if I've missed out something, so please do so.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Afshin. Okay, hello, good morning, assalamu alaikum. Okay, I am here. I'm very excited about being here, as I suppose this is the first presentation we have over here. And well, it is not necessary to have my long resume. Yes, I am coming here to try to get up to the level of Dr. Gabriela, but I'm going to do my best over here. Okay, my presentation today, I have it like this: the art and science of poetry and language development skills. Okay, yes, we have learned and we have listened just a moment ago that you can write poetry, your students can write poetry. It could be very nice, very lovely, very simple. However, I find this a little bit complicated because we need to get into the point that you say, yes, we need to have some practice, we need to develop language, okay, we have curriculum, we have a syllabus, but we are not going to have that problem with poetry because many teachers in the period of time that I have been researching this, they said, no, poetry is difficult, poetry is complicated. Well, we have seen that with very simple basic words, we can start having a poem just the way it should be. So let's remember that we, the teachers, we become the first model for our students. Yes, they are going to have the contact with the language from us. Okay, as I will see over this lovely reunion today, that most of us, we are non-native speakers of English, and that is very good. We perfectly know what is the process about being a fluent English speaker, and that is the first thing that we have to get with our students, that we are the model, that we are the ones that can develop the language and have this in the way that it is properly done. So that is also very important. our attitude towards the language is crucial to inspire students so they can achieve the expected success. Yes, this is something that we have to look after every day, every class, and there are many, many other things that we have to get into here. But okay, if I may talk a little bit about theory and what is the framework that we have behind all of this, we have to remember that the Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory, it is about three principles. First of all, we need to find identification. We need to feel a one-to-one connection with the individual that we are going to imitate, that is the teacher, or in this case, the poet of our choice. If we decide to have one poem, Lord Byron, Tennyson, or maybe just a poem we found over the internet, we need to feel that connection. They say, I like it. There is something in this poem that is really impressive for me. It's very likely that I want to repeat. And if we are constantly showing that interaction, that we are dealing with that, the results are very impressive because this observer, this student, myself, is going to have the ability to follow with the imitated action. If I want to understand poetry, I have to read poetry. If I want to practice my English, I have to be in contact with the English, and that is going to help in order to get this done. Second point about this theory, we are talking about self-efficacy, and it is the belief that one's ability to succeed in a specific situation. Yes, if I can deal with a poem, I am sure that I can deal with any other situation in life. I can negotiate, I can convince, I can have an argument, I can give my reasons, I can just say that I am happy, I am sad, I am angry, whatever it happens. Okay? And yes, this is very important. And this is what we teachers have to look after, that this self-efficacy plays a major role on how one approaches goals, tasks, and challenges. Of course, you will say any poem from a real, well-known classic name in poetry from the contemporary times, from the Shakespearean time, it doesn't matter. You can have real material, but the important thing is that we have to set realistic goals. If I can have with very low level of proficiency students, I just ask to recognize words, prepositions, simple collocations, and apart, well, from that, we can get other ideas with to work with the poems. But what is important? We live in a society, we have a classroom, even if it is virtual, if we are using Zoom like the moment we are having here, we have to observe each other. So we have to deal with this important thing about seeing all of my classmates, seeing my teacher seeing us how to have this. And yes, we're going to have this very interesting vicarious learning because with the social cognitive theory, by observing, we learn. That is the process. And if we can witness expected behavior from others, then we start to reproduce the same actions. So when we have this, we start to self-correct ourselves and we can perform much better than we can thought if we see other people completing the task, the goal, the idea successfully. That is very nice and very important. We are the teachers. We have to be the model. It is valid to say, well, I don't like poetry. That's very nice. Maybe I can like one poem or some other one. That's okay. But that is a very important thing that we need to be tolerant to each other. And students learn to be tolerant if we show them first. But okay. My situation here is that, okay, well, is there a science about poetry? how the science can help our students to perform much better in any aspect of language they have. So just having the same line as Dr. Gabriela mentioned a moment before, sorry, we're going to talk about poetry and English language teaching. Let's first remember what Catullus, a Latin poet, said a couple of thousand years ago. I hate and I love, wherefore I do this, perhaps you ask. I do not know, but I feel it being done and I am tormented. Well, you can say this could be complete, this could be depth, it doesn't matter. Just the way that we have mentioned before, Gabriela told us a moments ago, a poem is a poem because it is just called a poem. We don't need to get into these very complicated things. But for example, yes, we have this advantage of poetry, especially when they produce the poetry, because we have a meaningful output from our students. When you have these 10, 15 words put together, it's also meaningful because it's my idea having from my heart to the rest of the class, to the world. And this is natural language instead of this real language that many textbooks claim to have. And they say, well, I cannot find myself talking about the way the book speaks, but okay, it's a difficult thing to consider now, but okay, another occasion we can discuss about this. But very important, we have this dichotomy of accuracy versus fluency. Should I be accurate or should I be fluent? The best thing it will be to have both of them. And that's why I am coming here. We are going to talk about that in a moment. Okay. And what is a very important thing as my personal experience, I don't know if you have this as well, but sometimes I find that students lack creativity. And they say, well, you should be careful about it. If you can imagine, you can create it. And sometimes I said, well, I don't know what to write. Okay, but worry, that thing happens. But for example, okay, I'm going to use a poem from my favorite poet. Oh my God, that's myself. Okay, yes, I also write poetry. And this is one example of how I have this with my students. Okay, I have this over here. You can see it's a poem. Okay, if you can identify some poetical things that over there. Yes, it has rhymes, it has alliteration, it has some rhetorical figures. Okay, it has discourse management, but not only that, I also get this with the correspondent International Phonetic Alphabet Transcription. And you say, wow, this is a lot of things. Believe me, that is easier. Many of the textbooks will contain isolated sounds, how to pronounce this, so they say, p, v, whatever. And they say, no, I don't want you to have the isolated sounds. I want you to have it together, speak, utter something. And they have this advantage because I can generate from a software from text to speech, I can generate this. Quite easy, quite simple. And then you hear, okay, so
45th, I received from you something very special. A present that allows me to tailor the desired journey, like a sailor to further unleash my vast potential.
okay, I can generate that voice. And it is very interesting how we can use computers and this technology from not necessarily a super powerful computer. If we can handle with very specific things, we can have this. And this is my present for you today. How to use that? Let's see what is the science behind poetry and how can we get it into this language teaching. Okay, you have this. You say, wow, looks very nice. Okay, it looks like a lot of work. You said, no, well, yes, writing, it's something I also like. And the other thing is that I can analyze this text. So I know it's 154 words. From those 154 words, 97 are unique. So if we can get our students, okay, to see how many unique words you are using and you have this proportion, at least if you have a 50%, okay, you say, good, that is very nice. It doesn't matter if it is 10 words, 100 words, 1,000 words, 10,000, it doesn't matter. We have statistical tools, okay, to have with this, okay? And the most important thing is that I can read this in approximately 1 minute, 11 seconds. And that is the important thing. Just remember that we, in a normal speech rate, we talk about, well, around 120 to 130 words per minute. So if you have just a simple watch like this, if you use your mobile phone, okay, to read aloud and take the time, every student has to do that. And they say, how long does it take to you to have this? Okay, you are going to see what kind of improvement. Yes, you need to know that reading aloud is also an important part of this. Maybe in my times, some kilograms ago, when I was younger, okay, education said you have to read aloud. Well, in this case, our first language is Spanish and English. We have to do that in the both ways. And they say, and you have to read it nice, properly. And those times I have to deliver once a week a cassette. So I have to record the text and I have to give it to my teacher. And some days later, she will come back, she will give it back to me with proper feedback. They say, well, that was maybe 40 years ago and we were using technology. English teachers, we have used in technology in any or other form. But that's the way we are going to check that. So if you're familiar with the readability scales, using the Flips Reading Ace, it has a score already 4.5. That means that a person that will be possibly 8 to 10 years old could understand the poem I have written. That is something that you need to check. And you say, if it is difficult to read, is it difficult to comprehend? You can find about readability on the internet and you will find it is very important. And if you want to have it in a more specific way, you say, I am using 51 A1 level, that it is 53%. Remember, A1 words that want to be the core. So we move 12 words from A2 level, another 12 words from B1 level, 9 words from B2, 3 words from C1, 1 word from C2 level, and not enlisted in the English vocabulary profile, okay, that is another corpus of the University of Cambridge, okay? Then you just say, okay, there are 8 words. So it is not asking my poems, okay, to be too sophisticated. It is not necessarily to ask the students, okay, you have to use 15 words in the C2 level. No, they have to write it. They have to get it into this way. Just the words should flow from them. And not only with the pen, but only with their beautiful mouths. So 150 words, 1 minute 11. That is the supposing I want to think. But I want to ask you, do you like karaoke? Have you tried karaoke in your life? Because I have found something very important. This is something I really consider to be very nice. Okay, that we can have software, okay, that it can help to improve the quality of our speech, not only us, but for our students. And you don't need to use something quite sophisticated to have that. It's something maybe every computer could have. First thing, yes, we have Word 365. Yes, with this, I have this situation. Okay, well, it is in Spanish, my version, but you have this review. Sorry, you have this read aloud. Okay, it's in Spanish, but there is something that we can understand from here. It is not perfect, but it's going to help in the way I'm going to show you like that. So let's just have a look.
I received from you something very special. A present that allows me to tailor the desired journey, like a sailor, to further unleash my vast potential.
I'm sorry. So this is what I have here. I can adjust the speed of this. It is very important to understand that it's a kind of a karaoke because I can adjust to my current reading speed, and then I go. Okay, we go again.
I
See from
received
you
from you
something very
something very
special,
special.
a
A
present that
present that
allows me
allows
to
me to
tailor
tailor
the
the
desired
desired
journey
journey,
like a
like a
sailor
sailor,
to
to
further
further
unleash
unleash
my
my
vast
vast
potential.
potential.
So you can have it like this. Okay, you just need get the software when you have it. Okay, it is not showing over here, but you
I
can see
received from you
something
something
very
very
special.
special.
A
A
present that
present that
allows me
allows
to
me to
tailor
tailor
the
the
desired
desired
journey
journey,
like a
like a
sailor
sailor,
to
to
further
further
unleash my
unleash my
vast
vast
potential.
potential.
So, and you adjust the speed until you reach to the normal rate. So here we go. I receive
I
from
received
you
from you
something very
something very
special.
special.
A
A
present that
present that
allows me
allows
to
me to
tailor
tailor
the
the
desired journey
desired
like a
journey, like
sailor
a sailor,
to
to
further
further
unleash my
unleash my
vast
vast
potential.
potential.
And I go like that. So, and I am trying to get it higher, higher, and higher. So it is very simple to use that. With Word 365, you have all of this.
I
From you
received from you
something very
something very
special,
special.
a
A
present that
present that
allows me
allows
to
me to
tailor
tailor
the
the
desired
desired
journey
journey,
like a
like a
sailor
sailor,
to further
to
unleash my
further
vast
unleash my
potential.
vast potential.
I
I
never
never
expect to have
expected to
this
have a
frame.
frame.
Thanks to
Thanks to
you,
you,
my
my
words will
world will
have
have
warm
warm
colors.
colors.
I will give
I will give
myself time to
myself
my
time in
parlor.
my parlor.
I draw
I
the
draw the
exact
exact
lines to
lines to
represent your
represent your
name.
name.
So, and you have this practicing constantly, constantly, constantly. Okay, in the case I use it both one English version, phonetic version, the other one. So my students can get and reach everything they have. And what is the second thing? Yeah, now I feel that it is something very good. Okay, I come back to the menu, and then that is the thing. I can dictate this, and that is the fact that you are going to uh, tell words the same. You are going to read back. It is not going to be very perfect, but that is the way that it's going to help us improve. So when we say we need to get it with practice, with all these things, Word can give us a very nice thing. No? Well, I am dictating, so this is the thing I am having. So you can say with this dictation, okay, there is no big issue, and I have it like this. So it will take about a minute or something to have that. Okay, I understand this is not perfect, but really it helps to exercise the phonological system we have, because you say, and my students say, oh, I have all the words in my head, but I cannot utter them. I need kind of practice. Yes, during the classroom we have it, but what else? It's like if I would like to run a marathon right now. No, I'm not going to be able to run for more than 5 kilometers because I am completely in a very unfit way. Yes, the pandemic having been like this. But as you can see, just a minute and I have this poem, okay, dictated. Okay, so I have to compare it with the other version and you can see if I can pronounce it properly. So in this case, Word and the Microsoft artificial intelligence understands much better than the other ones that we can have it here. So you have this and it is very nice. Okay, you want to practice it your own way. So you have this website, naturalreaders.com, and then you have any piece of text, a poem, part of the novel you want to read, and then you can have it. This is rather free, so it doesn't have a lot of, it won't take all your money. You have something like this, and then you can use it, you can check it. So, well, as I know that we have no time for much of these things, but yes. And of course, our lovely friend, Google Translate. So if you can see over here, you have this microphone, you can speak it. You have it both with the website or you can use your mobile phone. I don't care about the translation. Well, today, okay, in honor to this Yelta Pakistan, well, I have this kind translation of Urdu. I am not sure if it is right. I am rather fluent in Arabic. Okay, so I suppose I could read that, but no, the fact is that you have to dictate, and maybe you can compare what is the result using Google and using Microsoft and Word. And I can tell you, Microsoft understands much better. I have been doing tests with native speakers, with recordings, and Microsoft get it in a much better way. So this is the thing that you have over here. And what is the conclusion about this? That practice makes master. Yes, the more than we have it, if we write poetry, it's not only writing poetry, it's also reading aloud. You have to mention poetry for it to exist. Yes, Gabby mentioned it before and I mentioned it again. Using poetry increases language awareness in a much better way. And you don't need to have a lot of things. 10, 15 minutes a day help to improve, but this is something that has to be constant with discipline. You have to read your poems. You have to spare time just to say 10 minutes, one poem, another poem, or until I can read aloud the poem just as I want, I'm going to have it. Yes, if they start practicing poems, okay, from other authors, they may get involved by writing their own poetry. And you say, okay, you want to write your own poetry? Well, you are not going to tell that about that poem until you can read it in the way that it has to be in your mind. You craft the poem, you have it, and then you get this wonderful thing about here. So it opens the perspective to other branches of literature, and you can start having a more vast idea, a better picture of how English works, what is English literature. We are going to get to know more things, and the more you know, the better person you become. So, and a definition of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, okay, great British poet, say poetry are the best words in the best order. You need to get the word that exactly reflects what you mean. And I tell my students, you don't need to write an elegy, a lyric poem, even if you write an essay, if you write a report, if you write an email, a postcard, a note, it's also a poem because you need to choose the right words to get it in the correct order, and then you have a poem. This is something that we have to remember every day. We as teachers, we teach language, we teach implicitly poetry. So you have lots of bibliography over here. You have this, okay, how you can get into this for the reading. And I have added some of the recommended sites, okay, you can start practicing your poem. Just having the latest version of Microsoft Word, you can have it. And thank you very much. Din din shukriya. Shukran. Okay, I am very pleased to be here. And okay, that's all. So don't worry. Okay, right now in the chat, I will get an access to get this presentation. So feel free to study, to use it, to analyze it. Okay, this is my present for you. So I saw it like here. So okay, so I couldn't read the chat box. Okay, yes. Okay, I can see if you have any comments, questions, please go ahead. Use the chat. Turn on your microphone, please. I am here to listen to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Hector, for such a wonderful presentation. And of course, the best words in the best order, that is poetry. And you have also mentioned artificial intelligence, and you've also provided some useful websites and a very interesting example of Google Translator, where English was translated into Urdu. And you used some Urdu words, Assalamu alaikum, Shukriya. So that was also very exciting to be heard from someone who is not a native speaker of Urdu language. So thank you so much. And over to you, Ms. Fakhra, if we have any questions for Professor Hector.
Yes, thank you, Professor Hector. Brilliant. And the connections that you've made with poetry and both as an art and a science. I suppose as language teachers, poetry is generally seen as something challenging for teachers to teach. And both of you have made things clearer and I think better for us as language teachers to understand how to use poetry effectively and beautifully and effortlessly. So thank you so much for that. There's a question, I'm not quite sure whether that's a question and that is also a comment as well. So this is from Doris and she's saying that, can we ask students to choose a poem online and try to write the opposite of the lines in the poem? So your response, please.
Of course, of course. We should foster every opportunity they have. If they want to choose a poem, if they want to use something that is their own creation, something that they found, please go ahead. One of the things is that, and at least in my case, my students are always asking to sing along, okay? Also singing using real karaoke. It's really helpful, but they say, okay, it is not only music, only we have to give poetry the place it deserves. So if they can find something, if they want to write something, if they find something that it is proper, not only a poem, but a text, whatever, please tell them. Everything that you provide to the class, it's important because it's your class, it's your learning.
Thank you. That's lovely. I suppose Mr. Turab Hussain has a question. Mr. Turab, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you, Professor. I have a question. In your presentation, you used terms natural language and real language. What is the main difference between these two?
Well, natural language is what we are having in this precise moment. Okay, so this natural language is when you speak in your everyday situation. When I say this kind of real language, that is a tricky label. Many publishers use that they say, yes, our book is based with real language, but that language is adapted for the level, if you will say beginner, elementary, upper intermediate, advanced, that this is specifically intended for this book, okay, as a process of, well, they have to sell books, we have to accept it. And they also sometimes have a bias in the language they use. So natural language is your everyday language. It doesn't matter if you are talking to your family, you are giving a presentation for Yalta. That's the difference I found it with this.
Thank you, Professor Hector. There's another question, and that is that poetry is such a tricky topic. We all agree to engage students. Suggestions on how can we teach them collaborative poetry writing?
Well, the first thing, as I mentioned in my presentation, is your attitude. If you say, okay, well, I have a poem, we are going to work with this, but you know, poetry is tricky, it's complex, it's difficult, only the Illuminati can understand poetry. Of course, if we start like that way, no. One of the things that I say that when I start using a poem, okay, in the first time, well, when I have a new group, they never know it's a poem. They say it's a song. I say, what do you think it's a song? Is it because it rhymes? Is it only song? Well, only songs rhyme, okay? Things like that. When they realize they are working with a poem, it's very nice, and they say, okay, and who is the author? I say, well, the author is me. But before that, I asked them, what do you think about the poem? What do you think about the poem? What do you think is the author attitude? They come up with such wonderful ideas that I am thinking, is like, was I thinking that? That's what happened to me? But that is nice. As long as you give them freedom, if you show that you are willing to use poetry, your students will follow. And that is the difference. We can have a song from any popular band you know, but if when we start to deliver what is the real core of language, they are going to say, ah, he's a good teacher. She has something, she has something new. She has something interesting, and I am getting to learn the language. So it is not tricky. If you think it's tricky, believe me, it's going to be like that. If you say, okay, we're going to deal with this, it's going to be much easier. Done, Marcos?
Great. Great, thank you. Yes, enjoy it and
Mhm.
make it fun. I think that is the message that has come through from both these presentations. Thank you so much. I don't suppose there are any more questions. So over to you, Dr. Afshin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fakhra and Professor Hector. You have clearly answered the queries. And if there are any more questions, you can write down in the chat box. And as the presentations have ended, I would like Mr. Neil, who is the president of IELTA International, to say a few words, and also Ms. Sola, who is the vice president of IELTA International, to say a few words about this webinar. I'll be honored if you guys could say something.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Sola.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I just want to thank you for this really special presentation, both of you, Gabriella and Professor. Coming from someone who really doesn't enjoy poetry a lot, I enjoyed both presentations to the max. It made me really want to work with poetry with my kids, with my students. So really thank you. Both presentations were great. And allow me, Dr. Salahuddin, just to thank you for being such an active ambassador to IELTA. You're doing a great job. I wish everybody will just follow your steps and you will be great. That's all what I have. And hopefully we're gonna meet in other webinars as well. So back to you, Dr. Afshin.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sola. And I think Mr. Neil is not available.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Neil.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayelta, Pakistan, and all the team who was in charge of this wonderful event. I am really a poetry lover. I love writing poems, and I love teaching my students with this material. It's really wonderful what we have learned today, how to use poems to teach our students, not just language, also knowledge. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers for your knowledge shared. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Neil and Ms. Sola, for your encouraging and motivating words. And thanks again to both the speakers for their valuable presentations. And if still anybody wants to ask any questions, do we have any new questions, Ms. Fakra?
No, Dr. Afshin, we do not.
All right, so I would like to thank again both the presenters and International Mr. President and Vice President for giving me an opportunity or giving us an opportunity to, share your vision and mission in Pakistan as well. I'm very thankful to IELTA team. We have all worked together to be able to, organize this seminar. And thanks again to both the presenters and everyone, the participants and ambassadors, whoever is here. I could see Ms. Neetu from India and Mr. Siddhartha, and any other ambassadors who are here to support IELTA Pakistan. Thanks to all of you, and thank you so much for the participants who have been actively, talking in the chat box and making some interesting comments as well. And thanks a lot, everyone. And once you fill in your Google form, your certificates will be mailed to you. For the participants, your certificates will be mailed to you. And for the respected speakers, your certificates of presentation will also be mailed to you. So thanks a lot and enjoy your day. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Afshin. And well, as this is the first webinar, well, Gabriela and I am sure we are absolutely pleased about that. And I would like to wish Yelta, Pakistan, all the success and to really bring teachers together, okay, to have a better education in your country. And from all the members of Yelta, yes, education is something that we need in order to solve a lot of problems. Maybe not everything, but I suppose it's the first step. Okay, may God help you to have this.
Thank you so much for your encouragement and support. And I guess we will again be having you with another interesting topic. Both of you, Ms. Gabriela and Professor Hector. Thank you so much and take care, everyone. Here we end our webinar. Thank you so much to the audience, everyone, IELTA team, IELTA Pakistan, and